Bridgerton Season 4. The long-awaited season has finally come, and so has my excitement of the year. I was probably most excited for this season because it has everything I love in it. Benedict, one of my favorite Bridgertons, the Cinderella trope, sorry, I know, I'm boring, and an East Asian lead. It felt like the season was made for me to watch, and so because of that, I was really scared because after season 3, I did not want them to fumble this, and amazingly, not only was it not a disappointment, I think this is the best season so far. It was a hard decision to make because who would dare dethrone this king and queen? I guess I did, but not without good reason. So today I want to go over the big reasons on why the season was so well done, but of course a quick summary. It is time for Benedict Bridgerton, the second son, to get married, but he's rather reluctant until he meets a lady in silver at his mother's masquerade ball. Unfortunately, she escapes before he finds out who she is, and his hunt for her afterwards also turns out fruitless. Then we are introduced to Sophie Beck, the aforementioned lady in silver. She's a maid at Penwood House under the cruel Lady Penwood, aka Araminta Gunn, and she has 2 daughters, Rosamond, who takes after her mother's personality, and bubbly and kind Posy. After Araminta finds out that Sophie has gone to the masquerade ball, she fires her. Then, by chance, Sophie becomes acquainted with Benedict and they develop a connection. Benedict unaware the whole time that she's the lady in silver. Benedict gets her a job at Bridgerton House, and then they embark on a journey of will they, won't they, and when will Benedict finally realize that she's the lady in silver? They fall in love with each other, but because Sophie is a maid and illegitimate, her father being the late Earl of Penwood and her mother being a maid, their relationship would never be approved in society and they would actually be ostracized. With Benedict basically never able to enter society or talk to his family publicly again. At the same time, Araminta still has it out for Sophie, trying to find reasons to throw her into jail. Araminta eventually does manage to convict Sophie, but everything resolves itself when they decide to present Sophie in front of the queen, going with the story that she's a legitimate relative of the Earl of Penwood. The queen approves of Benedict and Sophie's relationship, and in the eyes of society, they become a legitimate couple. Now what with Araminta? They find out that she embezzled Sophie's rightful dowry that she got from her father, and not wanting to go to jail herself, Araminta decides to go with the Bridgerton story of concealing Sophie's illegitimacy and drops all charges. Benedict and Sophie then get happily married without having to be shunned by society. There are love elements like the focus on the downstairs world and the multiple complex storylines that I want to cover. But first, there's something more important that I want to cover, and that is the costumes. I think a big criticism for season 3 was how crazy some of the costumes got and the modern touches that were a little too modern. Now, I wasn't a fan of the costuming in season 3 either. I don't know much or anything really about Regency clothing, so I'm not here to talk about accuracy or anything. I just care about 2 things with the costuming. That they give me Regency vibes, in other words, they still make me believe that I'm in this Bridgerton Regency time period, and 2, that they are flattering and look beautiful when they have to be. Now, I say when they have to be because I know costuming doesn't always have to be pretty. It's just what the story demands. All I want is for them to make the actor as beautiful as they can when the actor has to look beautiful. Now, with season 3, there were too many instances where they broke that, so I was really scared with season 4. We got our first sneak peek of season 4, where we got our first look at Sophie at the masquerade ball, and I was like, yes! She looked so pretty, and I loved the silver look. I'm kind of weirdly obsessed with bows, so I really love the bow details on her sleeves and the bow tying her mask. And so with this sneak peek, I was really excited and hopeful for the costuming in season 4. But then it plummeted again. We got more promo pics, and when I saw this, I was like, oh no. No! And then I was speechless. Luckily, this was only confined to the masquerade ball. It looked like they took the worst choices from season 3 out. Now, I don't know if they listened to criticism or not, but overall, I think the costuming this season was much better than the last one. In season 3, I hated those long sheer gloves and the half sheer gloves that like Penelope was wearing. They stood out to me too much, and overall, I think the solid colored long gloves, especially the white ones, look so much more elegant and refined, and I think overall they fit better with the dresses of that time period. And in terms of Penelope's like fabric gloves thing, not only did they stand out to me, they look very purposeless and unflattering, and I don't know what they were thinking with this. I mean, they should have just not given her any gloves at that point. But with season 4, it seems like they took that choice out. I think I only saw the sheer gloves once on Eloise, but luckily they weren't that noticeable. Then let's talk about Cressida. She actually makes a surprise appearance in season 4 as the new Lady Penwood. I honestly thought that they would get rid of her like crazy shoulder moments she had in season 3, because season 3 was all about making her costumes bigger to show her desperation to find a suitor and to get out of her father's home. Now that she's happily married though, there was still a dress with the shoulders. However, overall, I do have to say that I think the dresses she wore this season were so much more flattering than the last season. And honestly, I kind of like this bow dress she was wearing. I mean, all of these were like smaller improvements, but I'm happy that I could focus on the story for once and not on the costuming. And I think a big part of that also was because this season focused on Sophie and her world. So we got a lot of costuming for the maids and servants and stuff. And obviously they can't make those crazy too. There is, however, one big disappointment I had with the costuming and styling of the season, and it was the overall look of Sophie in the last ball. Aesthetics and like allure and glamour are really important in Bridgerton. All 4 female leads are freaking gorgeous. But the costuming and styling just elevated everything, and they were so top notch that they just made us be in awe. In season 1, Daphne's look just made me speechless. I mean, the actress is gorgeous, but what elevated everything and contributed to the allure of Bridgerton was her styling and the dresses she wore. I think to this day, Daphne still has my favorite looks. I mean, the simple dresses and more the simple makeup really worked for her and made her beauty shine more. In season 2, the straight cut silhouettes and the vibrant colors really made Kate shine, and I love those looks for her. And then in season 3, Penelope goes under a transformation and sheds the yellow that like flattens her, and instead chooses greens and blues, which complement her hair and complexion so much better. And she looked absolutely gorgeous. Now with Sophie, the lady in silver look so pretty. Then at the end of the season, she attends her second ball. And so I was really excited for this look because this will be only the second time we would see her basically outside her maid garments. And so I was expecting something really stunning, something really beautiful. But then they gave us this. She still looks really pretty, but I did not like the top cut at all. And in combination with her hair up like that, it made her look older than she is. And I was just so sad because I really wanted a really beautiful look. Maybe it's just me. Feel free to fight me on this. But I was just disappointed with this look. That's all I'm saying. However, overall, again, I was happy with the costuming in season 4. And there were some looks that actually stood out to me. Again, the lady in silver look, so pretty. But I also really loved what they did with Hyacinth this season. They gave her more mature silhouettes, but they still kept her youthfulness with like bows and puffs and flowers. And honestly, I really loved this pink dress she wore. Honestly, this would have been like my dream dress when I was younger. I also really like the Chinese influences on Posies and Rosamund's hair and dresses. Oh, and one more thing. I am so glad that Benedict does not look like a steampunk pirate. As I said before, I think it does really help that the focus was on the downstairs world, which is another charm of season 4. The main theme of this season is the upstairs-downstairs dynamic. For the first time, we get a glimpse into the lives of the maids, servants, and staff of the Tun. In the past seasons, we have been kinda in this fantasy world where it's all pink and flowers. In this season, for the first time, touches the reality of this world, the reality of rank and classism that existed. Of course, it's still romanticized and it's still a fantasy because it's Bridgerton, but this shift makes the season feel more grounded and real, and it's refreshing to see a focus away from high society. With this also comes a set of truly new characters that occupy a different space, and minor characters that have occupied the space in the past seasons finally get the spotlight, like Footman John, Mrs. Wilson, and Varley. This also makes the season feel more real because for the first time, we can relate to the characters more. People who work. With this also comes new settings that aren't just balls or Rotten Row or any of the more refined spaces that the Tun occupy. Instead, we get more glimpses into the Bridgerton kitchen, the markets, and more working class spaces like the local bar. And I love that we get to see all the work that goes behind the balls and all the other things that allow the Tun to live a comfortable life. Light is finally shown on the people who make this all possible. And so I kind of also see the season as like an homage to all the staff and the maids and the servants that existed during this time period. With the focus on the downstairs, I also really love that we see a whole friend group that supports Sophie wholeheartedly. I mean, there have been prominent friendships in Bridgerton already, like Penelope and Eloise, Lady Danbury and the Queen, Lady Danbury and Violet, Mr. Mondriche and Duke, and so on. But we have never gotten a proper friend group, and there are rules in high society that kind of prevent that. In season 3, Eloise and Cressida actually talk about the fact that in society, women are pitted against each other because of the marriage mart, and thus we don't see many female friendships. Also, in high society, a man and a woman can't be seen together alone unless they're like married or related, and thus we don't see many male-female friendships. I'm not counting Penelope and Colin in this because, it turned into something more. So with that in mind, it is really refreshing to see the deep friendship that Sophie and Alfie have and the friendship that Sophie has with her colleagues. With the upstairs and downstairs dynamic, it also leads itself to a more complex love story that hasn't been explored before, making it another reason on why the season was so refreshing to watch. Sophie is illegitimate and of lower rank, resulting in a complex love story between her and Benedict that contributes to growth and change in each character and also comes with high stakes and real consequences, something that we have not seen before in the past seasons. Sophie's father had always promised her that he would take care of her, but when he died, his will allegedly didn't have anything for Sophie and she became a maid, living under the cruelty of Araminta for years. Because of this, she started believing that her father never loved her and also started mistrusting love and promises. One of the scenes that I love that showed this perfectly was when Benedict was looking for his lady in silver and was at Penwood House to see if Posey was the one. Sophie was standing right outside the door, being encouraged by Alfie to reveal herself, but
he does not want to find me. He wants to find the lady in the silver gown. And she is not real.
this scene perfectly encapsulates the so close but yet so far, and it takes on extra meaning because metaphorically there is a huge door between them in the form of social class. Sophie has lost confidence in herself, and because she's a maid, she truly believes that she cannot occupy the same space that Benedict occupies, and thus, sadly, she convinces herself that Benedict is looking for a lady and not a maid. Also, by the way, the scene truly just showed that Alfie is the true MVP.
He is clearly looking for you. Go in there.
And why Benedict Bridgerton is my favorite brother.
I am interested. Your dreams are surely more inventive than any play I've seen.
Sorry, Gregory, I don't know much about you yet. Anyway, Sophie does eventually come to trust love because of Benedict always reaffirming his love for her, keeping his promises, and also learning from her, showing that he takes their relationship seriously. And it's this last point that truly made me in awe of how much the creators thought through Benedict's character and their dynamic. I think a lot of the reasons why people love Benedict so much is because he's so free-spirited and doesn't really care about societal rules. However, in this season, what I love is that while he's against those rules, he still has a lot to unravel and learn because there are some societal beliefs he still carries around because there are inherent things that he learned growing up in high society. It just shows that while he does not agree with what society imposes, his place of privilege still only allows him to see that much, and that is the reason he asked Sophie to be his mistress.
Be my mistress.
He doesn't know any better, and because she's a maid, he thought that that is what she would want. But to be honest, I think there's a more profound instance than the be my mistress moment. And that is when Benedict tries to kiss Sophie, but she refuses and asks him an important question.
Why do you find it suitable to kiss me?
I love the scene because for the first time, Benedict is confronted with something he doesn't realize he does. In society, a man cannot compromise a woman's virtue unless they're married. Because if he did, the woman would be considered less pure and thus not desirable on the marriage mart. Because Sophie is a maid, that rule doesn't apply to her. And obviously, it's an example of classism during that time. One cannot corrupt a lady, but one can corrupt someone of lower class. So when Benedict meets the lady in silver, he tries to kiss her, but stops himself at the last second because he knows it's not proper and instead kisses her cheek. However, with Sophie, he doesn't even think about that. He just kisses her, showing the societal belief that he still carries around subconsciously. Sophie is probably the first one who ever calls him out on something like this, and Benedict finally realizes what his actions truly signify. With all this, we not only get a love story, but a love story where we get to actually explore their individual journey and growth that also happens because of each other. Another reason that draws us into this love story is that I don't think we have seen stakes and consequences as high before, which is another reason on why the season feels more grounded in reality. All the other seasons have been this fantasy romance, if you know what I mean. In season 1, Daphne is between a duke and a prince. In season 2, Anthony is engaged to one sister but is in love with the other. And in season 3, Penelope is between someone who she has had a crush on and someone who understands her and is the first one to show interest. All of them are really removed from reality, and that's a reason why we love Bridgerton, because it's an escape from reality. However, now though comes season 4, still a fantasy, but there are now big consequences and a difficult choice to make. And the difficult choice is family or love. Again, if Benedict decides to lead a life with Sophie, they have to basically escape to the countryside, and Benedict basically has to cease contact with the rest of his family because their relationship could ruin the Bridgerton name and affect the marriage prospects of his other siblings. We have been taught by Bridgerton so far that love wins all and that family is everything, and now they are being pitted against each other. And for the first time, the audience is left with an emotion that we have never felt before: fear. On one hand, we are rooting for Sophie and Benedict to get their happily ever after, but on the other hand, it will break our hearts if we never saw Benedict with his family again. However, all gets solved, of course, and they do live happily ever after, as I mentioned, but the fact that their love story feels more impactful and more emotional in a way than the others, because they introduce profound consequences, really makes this a season to watch. Now that we have covered the main storyline, what also made the season so good were the other storylines that all actually connect and serve a purpose. Because all the storylines connect the season, it finally feels like each character actually serves a purpose. The main themes of the season are showing that maids, servants, and staff are people and important, and that you should live your life how you want to. Society shouldn't dictate anything. All storylines contribute to Benedict and Sophie's story and these overarching themes, making us finally care about characters that we haven't really cared about before, like the Mondriches. In season 1, they did kind of serve a purpose because Will Mondrich was a close friend of the Duke. But after that, they kind of drifted off, and their storylines kind of felt really removed from the Bridgertons, and thus I don't want to be mean, but made me not really care for them at all. To be honest, for the last couple of years, I was asking myself why they are still in the story. But after watching season 4, it seems like everything has been leading to this. And for the first time, they finally contribute heavily to the main storyline. Out of the major cast, it would have been a shame if they didn't incorporate the Mondriches in this season somehow, because out of all of them, they were the only ones that were of working class rank. So their perspective in and of itself would be different than everyone else on the relationship between Benedict and Sophie, and luckily we got to see that. The first person that Benedict actually reveals to that he has something going on with someone of lower rank is Will Mondrich. Will immediately understands that Benedict has asked this woman to be his mistress and gives it to him straight.
No woman, no man, no person truly desires to be hidden.
And then he proceeds to tell Benedict some powerful advice about gestures and about telling her that he takes their relationship seriously, even though it will never be allowed in society. I think for the first time, Will is actually involved and is part of the main storyline, becoming a key person that Benedict can rely on, which gives Will a purpose this season. The same with Alice. She actually becomes a part of everything by becoming the Queen's new lady in waiting. Accidentally, she also actually becomes one of the first people to find out about Benedict and Sophie's relationship. But instead of revealing that secret, she ends up using her new role to come up with the plan to present Sophie in front of the Queen as someone who's legitimate. So both Will and Alice become key contributors to Benedict and Sophie's story this season, making me actually care about watching them. The next storyline I want to talk about is Penelope's. Now that everyone knows she's Whistledown, she finally faces some consequences. Not that I want to see her get punished or anything, but I really like that the show took this route because I don't think it would have made any sense otherwise. After season 3, I was like, how is she going to continue Whistledown and still relay gossip? Again, now that everyone knows, she wouldn't be able to get any gossip because no one would say anything around her anymore. And Penelope realizes that quickly too, and asks the Queen if she can give up her column. The Queen says no at first, but then Penelope delivers a speech about how Whistledown now acts like a cage for society because they can't live freely or speak freely now. The Queen, being in a cage herself, her castle, finally comes to understand and grants her wish. And Penelope also in that speech delivers a powerful line.
Would it not be pleasant to give society a reprieve? To allow them to simply live their lives the way they wish, without fear?
I feel like every storyline fits beautifully like in a puzzle because what Penelope said echoes the main message of the season, living your life without fear. And Penelope does end up resting her pen and living the life that she wants. And she's not the only one. Lady Danbury asks the Queen if she can leave and go back to her homeland. Again, the Queen says no, but after Penelope's speech, the Queen realizes that she can't be the one confining people and she can't be the one not letting people live out their lives. So she eventually agrees and allows Danbury to leave. Through this, we also get to see a new facet and a new chapter in their friendship, which I loved. After the Benedict and Sophie problems get solved, we get this lovely scene between them.
We have such fun together. Yes, we do.
This scene made me tear up because I think this is the first time since the Bridgerton side story that we see how deep their bond and their friendship is. And talking about emotional scenes, we have to talk about Francesca's storyline this season. Before we get into anything, let me just tell you guys that I used up a whole tissue box for that one episode. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, spoiler alert, John dies. Not only did it make the season more emotional on top of everything already, I actually really liked that they included the storyline in this season because it truly showed that love is worth it, however short it might be.
The good John brought into my life, that bond, that understanding, love, far outweighs any pain I feel right now.
And this is the final push that convinces Benedict to choose Sophie and propose to her. And in turn, we also get to see Benedict and Francesca's relationship and how Benedict helps Francesca see that she was a good wife and everything to John, contrary to her beliefs and her feelings of inadequacy that she was feeling throughout the season. With this, not only do all the characters and storylines serve a purpose this season, all of them also show growth and change in the characters. We get to see this sad but beautiful journey of Francesca overcoming her insecurities. We get to see Penelope and Lady Danbury choosing to live their lives how they want to. We get to see the queen make selfless choices even though it hurts her. And we also get to see Violet choose a life that she wants to, a life of independence and a life outside marriage. And we also get to witness a change in Eloise, of her coming to understand more of why women choose to get married and why they choose to love. And I really liked that Cressida was a pivotal part in that. I was truly happy to see a reconciliation between Eloise and Cressida, and truly I loved that Cressida also got her happily ever after. And lastly, a small storyline, but a storyline that I actually also really liked was the one between Mrs. Featherington and Varley. It was small, but it was a prime example to show the main message of the season, that the staff is important and part of your family. Everything in the season had me so invested, and unlike other seasons, there wasn't one storyline that I wanted to skip over, and I loved the season for that. There are other things that I loved about the season and things that made the season so good, but they couldn't really fit into a category. So here are the honorable mentions. Benedict coming out to Sophie, love.
Just as I have cared for some men, and I refuse to be at all ashamed about that.
And then the two cutest things I've ever seen on Bridgerton, Posey and Hyacinth's recital. If there's a competition on cuteness level of each season, I think season 4 would also come on top. Bridgerton season 4 was beautiful, sad, joyful, happy, emotional, impactful. And I think that is the reason why this season was the best season so far. Feel free to disagree. I know people have their favorite seasons, so let me know yours. But thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.